Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is the March monthly update. I am the CEO, Derek Boyd, and this is...
I'm the President and Secretary, Vladimir Stakhanov. So today we're going to roll right into it. But first, I'm sure many of you are wondering, why do we have this bikini bottom background here? Let me explain to you. We quit. We put Patrick Starr in charge, and he had one solution for us. That was to take all of our problems and push them somewhere else. Ever since, he has been immortalized as Employee of the Month. Because let me tell you, we are in the profit. Oh, we are in the profit this month, baby. So, let me start off and explain to you what our new CEO, Secretary, President, and CFO, Patrick Starr, did. He fired our contractor because he was a piece of shit.
Keep going, there's more. Oh, he did more than just that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He then owner financed half of our mobile home park because it was a problem and said, nope, not my issue. And then he somehow literally paid off enough of our problems to buy us an asset while threatening a lawsuit in between.
So you're saying this Patrick Starr, CEO, President, Chairman, and everything else underneath that.
I don't even know why we're here making the video. He should be the one literally talking about this.
Patrick Starr, the greatest employee we've never had.
Yes. So, let's get right into it. Contractor fired.
Yes.
Literally fired.
Like you're fired.
Yes.
Like that.
I have never been so irritated and so livid with one man in my life. So obviously, as we talked about a little bit beforehand, we found out that he hadn't worked in almost over an entire month at the park. He'd only shown up like twice, and we were sitting there and we were paying him as if he was working the full time that he was supposed to. Well, what ended up happening was, and Derek, please go into this lovely story. Go ahead. Explain how he got fired.
As you guys remember, not only did he not really show up for about a whole month, but the one time he did, or I guess I should say the two times he did, was in regards to taking the water heater out of 118 and taking it down to 136. And that was on a Wednesday. The only reason I remember this is because it was specifically, he had to come back out on Sunday, that following Sunday, about 4 days later, on Super Bowl Sunday, in order to fix something with it, some type of water leak of some kind. I don't know exactly where it was exactly the first time. Anyway, so he did that. So he puts a water heater in on a Wednesday, then he comes back 4 days later, fixes it, gone. Never shows back up until we eventually get back on his case again, because on a Thursday, March 3rd, I believe, the water heater busted again, and this was at about 10 o'clock in the morning. He then gets out there. This was at 8 o'clock in the morning. He gets out there at 10. He's then out there. He does a fix on it. He leaves at around 2-ish. Comes back because it busts again.
This is in the same day, mind you.
In the same day. So he busts again. Sometime like 30 minutes later, he comes back, fixes it again. He then leaves. Busts again. Sometime around 8 o'clock that night. And we just had to shut the park entirely water off because there's no individual shutoff valve. Well, we thought there wasn't, but the tenant couldn't figure it out for that particular unit. So it was a water heater placed about 2 weeks prior, bust 4 days later, then roughly about a week and a half later, it bust 3 times in one day.
Needless to say, he was told that night, don't come back. You're fired. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, here's where it gets even dumber, right? So, being the young, scrappy lads that we are, problem is here. We need to fix it. Derek and I go out there, and within one day, we accomplished 3 different tasks that he was not able to get done in over 2 months. Yes. We fixed the water heater. We installed a shutoff valve at another unit that was sitting there leaking water for us the entire time. And we also sat there.
So when we went out there, the original reason why it bust for the water heater was because of the hot water valve.
Yes.
The hot water going out bust. But we also seen that there was a ridiculously obvious leak for the water coming in. So we were like, well, while we're already here fixing the busted hot water pipe, we might as well just fix the clearly obvious leak because, I don't know, we've had a $2,000 water bill for the past 4 months.
So just so you understand, when he's saying leak, I almost forgot about this. There was a pipe coming off of the hot water heater that was just constantly draining water.
Yes.
Nonstop.
Was it like
the house.
like a drip? No, it was like a...
Like you have your sink on the whole time.
Yes.
That's what it was just doing. And he never sat there and noticed this and didn't fix it. And I was blown away by this because just like Derek's saying, we've been dealing with $2,000 water bills. And I'm over here like, how is this possible? He supposedly fixed all the leaks. No, he didn't.
So basically, while we were out there, this took about 13 hours in total for our entire day. I'm going to clarify, I didn't take that long to actually do the job. Problem is that the local hardware store that we needed for the parts that we needed was about 40 minutes away, 35, 40 minutes away. And we had to make multiple trips, mostly because not only was it the fact that we were doing extra jobs that we weren't originally planning on doing, because once again, we were just going to do the hot water heater that busted. But once again, we saw that it was all these other problems.
The further problem of it.
But what was even worse was that he did the most straight up dumbest system of patching together pieces to make something work I've ever seen. Where it was like the original brass going to, I can't remember exactly because it's been almost a month. I have the picture, we can show it to you. But it was like original brass going to, I believe it was PEX on the hot water, which was fine. But then on the cold water, it was same thing. It was like PVC going to, I think, PEX and back to CPVC, then back to PEX, and then it went to brass. It was like the most insane setup ever. And then he did stupid stuff with it where he like, so for example, PEX you crimp, and PVC and CPVC you glue. Well, he like crimped PVC and glued PEX. It was way odd. Some of it was taped. Other parts of it was just like, sort of glued, sort of like just hanging in a direction to where the water had to be connected, because it really wouldn't blow, like, you know, like for example, if water was coming down, then he just put a pipe underneath of it, so water would just drain into the pipe, so it wasn't even really connected. Oh, it was a freaking mess. I mean, it was the worst thing we've ever seen, and the worst part is that you could see what was the original part of the mobile home and what was the more recent jobs done with the mobile home, and it was very clear that it was his handiwork, because once again, he also did the other dumb thing, which is, so the water heaters are typically under the mobile home. This idiot, with his absolute infinite wisdom, decided to put it inside the home, which isn't a problem. The problem is where he put it. He puts it in the closet where both the hot water and the cold water, like sections where they connect in for the actual hot water heater, if they were to bust and blow, they blow right onto the back side of the panel for the literal breaker. So where all the electric is for the entire home, water facing it. And so when it bust one time in the house, it actually was spraying that wall. And in case you don't know anything about mobile homes, they are very cheaply made, aka quarter-inch sheetrock at best is your separation between something over here and something over here. So we're basically saying this thing was spraying the literal breaker panel.
It's absolutely absurd, the way that he went about this. And honestly, once we saw that, and again, him and I were able to literally get everything fixed like we've been telling him to do in one day that he hadn't been able to do in 2 months. Like, prime example, we put in a shutoff valve in 124. And we were doing that one in the middle of the night because we already bought all the pieces and everything else like that. I just cut into the pipe to figure out at what end the water was going to be spraying out of. Once we figured that out, we just connected in using SharkBite, where literally you push in one end, push in another end, boom, it's sealed, it's done. We just literally did that. It was already fixed and done. Now we're not having constant leaking water, because when we check 124, the tub is constantly leaking water because it never got properly fixed or shut off. And now we have a shutoff valve there that's easy to access. Same thing like what he's saying. We were able to reconnect all the wiring because his weird ass connection system there, we literally just cut it and then just replace it all with one long pipe, like what you're supposed to do. Got it connected and then went from there. I think, what was the total cost of that job?
I was going to say, I think we paid like maybe $180 for all the
parts. $180, all the parts, got it done. Vast majority of our time was spending gas, which unfortunately cost the company a fortune.
Yeah, because that was also while gas prices
Yeah,
were like
it was.
skyrocketing.
Yeah, that was the longest part of this entire thing was us seeing a problem, trying to figure it out, trying to reconnect it, trying to figure out how to like make things work and like reconnect
The
them
other issue
together.
too is we would go
Driving
to
back,
one
driving
store
forward.
and they would have like one part, and we had to go to another store and they have a different part because we went to Lowe's, Ace, and then there's a specialty
Specific mobile home parts store.
And so we also had to travel between stores because, like I said, we need like 4 pieces, and one would have 2, one would have 1, and one would have the other one. So it was like a pain in the butt making it all mix. But we literally just undid everything he did it correctly, and we have a picture attached here. But oh my god, it was a freaking mess.
Yeah. But now that we went over that, so as far as maintenance, guys, really, this was when we fired him. That was pretty much the final straw of where we said, you know what, not even worth it to test the waters. Owner finance all the problems. If it's not like easily to fix, if it's not easy for us to deal with, just doesn't matter. Because you have to understand, by firing him, the company immediately brought in an additional $1,000 a month.
1,200.
1,200. I'm sorry, for just simply firing him.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, we weren't getting our money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved on to the next thing, which was our very aggressive owner finance strategy. And to give you guys an update, obviously you guys heard that we had owner financed 118 last month towards the end of the month. Well, great news, they got their power on. And if you don't remember which unit 118 was, that was the one where the tragedy happened and that little girl had been shot and killed in there. Mm-hmm. And then that's when the county came in and started like ripping out power and everything else like that. That unit already has power back on since those people have taken over.
It took them, I think, exactly 10 days. So
yeah.
From the day they signed, so obviously they didn't do anything that day. So the next day after, this is getting the permit filed, getting approval, getting the inspection. They had to get a re-inspection because they didn't quite pass it the first time. And then they did the last little bit of stuff, then got the re-inspection, and then called the power company, and then they came in and put the meter back in. All of it took about 10 days total.
Yep. So they got taken care of that. Then we got a very bizarre, interesting deal because our tenants over at 130, unfortunately, they had lost both their jobs. We tried to offer to work with them to see if they wanted to stay or anything else like that. They said no, and they gave us a move-out date. They honored everything. Honestly, I would recommend those tenants to anybody because they were good, honest tenants. Like, they didn't try to fight anything or whatever else. They just blatantly admitted they couldn't pay and they had to leave, and that's exactly what they did. Yep. So we put that unit up for owner finance, and then we got the craziest offer. A person came in and asked...
Oh, actually, real quick, on that one, electric got shut off on that one because we then found out, because we had originally tried to get the electric in our name, because we were only told initially that it was 118, 122, and 138 the electric was turned off on. No, they put a hold on the entire park.
So if the electric ever gets shut off at any unit, you have to pull permits and start the whole process.
And so we found that out once 130 had left. When we were trying to get it into our name, they had to do a credit check and everything because obviously I just need to make sure that we have, the ability to pay. And so we passed everything, and then at the very end, they were like, actually, we can't put it in your name. And we're like, why? And they said, unfortunately, it looks like the county has a hold on it, and we tried to reach out to them. They didn't want to work with us, blah, blah, blah. So basically, we had to go through the whole permit process on that one. And we haven't gotten that one done yet because
Yeah, so the lady that ended up taking that one, it gave us a very interesting deal. She asked us to put her under a rental contract where she would be responsible for all repairs, paying $650 a month, and $100 of that to be going towards a down payment, because our down payment that we were asking for, she just didn't have the funds for it. But she was willing to go ahead and pay and start making payments towards the property while remaining under a rental agreement until she saved up the funds, basically by paying us like extra to get into it. And I was like, absolutely. So we just signed her onto a rental agreement because obviously she doesn't have the money for a down payment. So we just signed her onto a rental agreement and then continued on from there. And that was absolutely phenomenal. And that basically didn't hurt any income from the transition between the previous people to them.
So basically, really, the only money we're losing out of that, which we're still getting in the back end, is just $100, because effectively she's still paying lot rent, right? Like as if she was renting out the property, or sorry, if she was owner financing the property. So that still covers the water bill and things. And then she's also obviously paying for the remaining portion of it as just a renter, being the extra $300 or so dollars. So she's not getting any of that credit towards the mobile home purchase or anything. She's just paying out of pocket $550. And then on top of that, she's also doing the repairs to get it up and running so that she can actually get into a position where she's going to be owner financing it. So long story short, the longer she takes, the more money we make, and it's more beneficial for us too, because once again, she's also doing the repairs. So if she comes through, great. If she doesn't come through, great. It really
Yeah.
works out either way. And for her end, it also works out because she can utilize it as storage, which she's doing right now. She has time to work into the home because she's already renting at a different place, and then she's not exactly pressured to have to make it perform because she's not exactly living in the situation, and she can afford both.
Yep.
So it works out well for her as well.
And so then the other thing that happened there is that we ended up getting the lot rented at 138. That lot that we just had sitting there doing nothing. Somebody literally moved a tiny home onto it, and they chose our non-security deposit option because we were asking $250 with a $500 security deposit, or $300 total each and every single month. And they chose the $300 option, so they moved into the lot, and now they're getting everything set up for themselves to be able to then pull permits and get the electric back on for that, for their tiny home that they are currently having. And then we get into the interesting one. So 136, that unit unfortunately had
fortunately, then unfortunately, because we sold it first.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I don't think we mentioned what was happening beforehand, where the gentleman was in the hospital to begin with.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately, one of our grandfather tenants, we got news from family members letting us know that he was in a coma, and more than likely they were going to be pulling the plug on him, and that to go on ahead and just any agreements or anything else, I understand, like just go ahead and cancel them and then go from there. We honored that. Yep. We canceled all agreements because he was technically on a year lease. So technically we still were due a couple more months of payments. Don't be that guy. Don't just let it go. So we sat there and we let it go. We agreed to cancel all agreements, and then we decided to go ahead and owner finance that house as well. And then we got a gentleman who is a former contractor, current contractor. He came in with our full down payment. We were asking $2,000 down, and the first month's rent being $550. So he paid everything up front, like within 2 days of us having that property advertised for owner finance and ready to jump right into it. That's exactly what he did. So he got into the home. He had paid for everything for it, and he was ready to go. Then his wife, I believe,
or girlfriend, something like that.
Yeah, his significant other had actually passed away due to a medical condition within the home. Literally, like a week or two,
like a week and a half, 2 weeks
after he had paid for everything and whatever else. He came to us. He was very humble. He blatantly told us, he's like, look, I understand in the agreements, nothing was refundable. Nothing was ever due back. That once I signed on it, regardless of whatever happened, like, obviously you guys would be due to it. He's like, I'm begging you, is there any way that you could work with me and just give me a little bit of funds to sit there and try to work with me on the situation I'm in? He's like, I understand what the agreement said. He's like, I'm not demanding, I'm not asking, I'm begging you. Is there anything you can do to work with me on it? So after we negotiated with him, we settled for $700 back as a refund to him, as even though, once again, legally we didn't have to do it, it felt like the right thing to do. It's understandable why he would not want to be in that home due to his significant other literally passing away inside of the home. That's I couldn't bring the heart to actually tell him otherwise. So we refunded him that, and then we actually started working with him as a potential new contractor because we saw some of the work that he did in the home for the very short time that he was in there. We started working with him as a potential new contractor, and we were actually getting him to fix up some of the flooring issues over at 108, which now leads us into 108, which is now getting evicted because I nearly lost my mind after what had happened. So Derek, if you want to go ahead and go over the situation there again.
So first off, I don't think we got into the video, but at some point near the end of February, he had agreed to transition into $300 a week catch-up payments, basically. So normally he would pay $800 or so, then the $100 late fee makes $900. So he's promising to pay $300 a week, which would have been $1,200. So it would have been all of 1 month plus late fee, and then $300 towards the next month, or I should say,
he was about a month and a half, constantly almost going on to 2 months behind every single month, and we just can't have that.
This would have had him caught up in about 2 months exactly, so 9 technical payments, and so he really wasn't too far behind. He had started the process, and he had made the first 2 weeks of $300 payments, and then he didn't pay for 2 weeks.
And I came up there because I was signing termination with the tenant over at 136 and issuing them their refund that we agreed to and everything else like that. And then we brought him up there, or I brought him up there to go check out the flooring. So the guy was sitting there and he was telling us that the floor in the laundry room had caved in and that his baby sat, or like his grandchild or whatever else, like fell through the floor. And I was like, okay, understandable. So there was a leak that we knew about in the laundry room. We had mentioned it to him to like fix it or repair it, and I guess he didn't. But when we got there, surprisingly, after I got the other gentleman from that other home to take a look at it, the potential new contractor, he told me, he's like, oh no, there's no leak in the laundry room, but there was a hole there, so it just must have been from previous long-term water damage. Then we got to the part that absolutely made me almost rage. So the guy had a little bit of an attitude, which whatever, I just ignored. The major hole where he was talking about that supposedly his grandbaby had fallen through was in front of the sink in the kitchen. When we signed with him 7 months ago, there was a leak underneath the kitchen sink. He told us that he would fix it and that he would handle the leak underneath the kitchen sink.
And that was part of his agreement to move in.
And that was part of his agreement to move in. His way of fixing it, I don't know if we have photos of it, but he basically used like the grate stuff and just sealed it around the drainage
used like
stuff.
5 cans of grate stuff.
Like, and sealed it around the drainage can, which that's not how you do plumbing. And then on top of it too, you can literally see when you turn the damn thing on to use it, it's just draining water, which means for 7 months, our flooring in there has been getting a bit like obliterated from this water damage that he was supposed to have fixed and never told us if he fixed it or not. And instead complaining about the hole in the floor that he caused. Dude, I was so livid. Because the other thing I was there to pick up too, because like Derek said, he was now behind on his payment plan that we agreed to. He was behind 1 week and it was the following pay date. So he was supposed to pay $600 that time. And I literally
he told us, as I reached out to
multiple times,
many times in advance, what day can you pay? And he put a date down. Then he told me it was going to be an extra day or two late. Then he told me a new day. Then it would be an extra day or two late. And so anyways, he was going to pay. He said in text message that he would have the $600 on Monday. This happened to be Monday.
And so then I said, and then I took the other contractor gentleman out. And after he left, I asked him, I was like, okay. I was like, so I'm also here to pick up the $600 for your payment plan. And he was like, and he tried to lie to me because I don't deal with the tenants usually. I'm very hands off when it comes to tenants. Like I've mentioned before, if you see me in the middle of your payment schedule, it's probably a bad thing because that means you're on the verge of being evicted. I'm the guy. I'm that guy for the company. I'm the one posting notices and things like that. And sure enough, he tried to lie to me, tell me, oh yeah, I was really surprised by that. Like, Derek sat there and he didn't tell me that I would have to pay today. So I was, I don't have the money on me, but I should have it by tomorrow or whatever else. Like, I just didn't know that I have to pay today. And I looked him in the eyes. I was like, you've been on a payment plan for the last 4 weeks. You paid 2 of those payment plan payments. You already missed one, and now we're here. So let me confirm with you. You do not have anything to pay us today. And he was like, nah, maybe I might get something in tonight. I was like, okay, I'll talk with Derek. Walked out of there because I knew if I stayed there any longer, I would be saying something. I got in my car, called Derek, told him I'm filing the eviction against him, driving straight to the magistrate, sit down in front of the judge, and file the eviction right then and there. Because not only has he been behind, and we've been very, very, in my opinion, too generous with like trying to work with him and trying to get him caught up and everything else like that. But then we ended up having to pay out about $600 to get the problem solved with his flooring that he caused because he didn't do the work he said he was going to do for months. And we have been paying the water bill on these leaks every single month because he didn't do what he said he was going to do. So he's now cost us a multitude of money across the board. He's basically cost us an entire rental payment and just the floor repairs. That doesn't include the plumbing repairs yet. That's just the floor repairs.
And then the biggest concern of all was not even just that, but the fact that he has literally one job, which is an HVAC tech. He literally installs and pretty much manages ventilation for any type of air conditioning unit. And so our contractor, the newer one that we were getting in there, he's also licensed and certified for HVAC, had to literally fix his HVAC for him because he messed it up and it kept blowing the breaker, and it took about 35 minutes, and it has apparently been this way since he moved in for months. So he never hooked it up correctly, never knew how to hook it up correctly, never told anybody he didn't have it hooked up correctly. And then this other guy came in and realized that the breaker kept blowing out every time it kicked on.
Which was also part of our agreement as a repair that he was supposed to do for moving into the home at the discounted rate.
So literally the one job this guy literally has to get payments for to actually pay us can't even do that right.
Yeah. So,
and also it's a pop-up dog out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, that's the other. But I'm ignoring the dog completely, like, because again, that we could work with, charge the $50 a month like pet fee or whatever else, which is in his agreement. I didn't even care about the dog. I was just blown away at that because I get so irritated for two things when it comes to tenants. Number one biggest pet peeve of mine: if you don't honor the agreements that we agreed to. That's always my number one biggest pet peeve. Number two biggest pet peeve: that you think you can lie to me about your payment plan when him and I talk to each other every single day. We may not be around each other. We may have not done the same business together, but he knows exactly what I did or whatever deals I'm working on or whatever's happening with me. I know exactly what he did and whatever's going on with different tenants and so on and so forth. We communicate. That's the point of being partners. The balls on that man to lie to me about his payment plan that I approved of.
Not to mention, we have to give a 24-hour notice before we show up to the house. We gave him the 24-hour notice that he agreed to that included his payment.
Yes. So,
and I told Vlad to go out there because he was already going to be there. So this convened with his 24-hour notice. So obviously I told Vlad why he's going. What?
And the funniest part is him having an attitude with me about the floor, because he specifically pointed not to the floor in the laundry room. That's where his grandbaby fell through.
Yeah.
No, it was the floor, literally in front of the sink. The one that he was supposed to have fixed the leak on. Back when Derek and I went in that house, that floor was still sturdy. It was wet, but it was still very sturdy.
Oh, it was very salvageable. There was really nothing. All you had to do is just fix the leak and then replace the actual top floor, which at the time was carpet or something. But
no, it was laminate. It was laminate there, but there was carpets on the side. Yeah.
But yeah, now it was a complete tear out job.
There was no salvaging
into the wood.
So yeah, needless to say, that's done. He's either catching up completely.
Well, we haven't received the payment yet. It's been like almost a week, a few days.
That is true.
So where's the payment?
So
he was supposed to get it the next day or
whatever. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so the thing is that he has to pay the full amount that he's due, and we'll cancel the eviction. We were nice. Not actually, I'm lying. I was too angry to add the eviction fee. That's usually in our contract, so we charge $150 if we have to file an eviction against you. I was too angry to even worry about that. I just literally called Derek. I was like, how much is it you do? Okay, and that's exactly what I put down on the eviction paperwork. So that's what the paperwork says. I'll honor it. If he does sit there and catch himself up fully before court date or whatever else, sure, we'll cancel and we'll continue working forward from there. But once his agreement, because I think he's on a 1 year, or...
It was on a month-to-month.
No, he's on a month-to-month.
Everybody's on a month-to-month after the grandfather tenants.
Yeah, once he sits there and once if he does catch up, we're going back and we're having some heavy renegotiations of that agreement. 'Cause clearly, nothing got done like what it was supposed to be. So yeah, in my personal advice, I would leave. That's what I would do if I was in his shoes. So now let's move on to the other one. So the other huge news. We actually bought an asset. Now, I know you're wondering, how could two very poor boys who have literally dumped thousands and thousands of dollars that they will never see again,
and we have
any kind of
visual
benefit,
proof of our negative
Yes.
bank account every month.
and how can these two poor boys who literally have dumped thousands and thousands of dollars to this mobile home park that has not produced them anywhere near the amount it should have,
That's
and have
correct,
also
yes.
wasted thousands of dollars on incompetence, on bad deals, and everything else like that dealing with this mobile home park? How could you two afford to buy a $15,000 asset, you say? The secret is your own personal investment.
That's right, baby.
So, once again, we found a deal. And our personal investments, literally, I don't know what happened over the course of like February. It was like ramping up. But like March, our personal investments have skyrocketed
Yeah.
through the roof. Like we have made so much money on our actual personal investments through like the multitude of different things that we have into it, like individually, and then some things that him and I are still partnered on and whatnot. Dude, it has been insane. So him and I agreed to go ahead and take some of that money and actually funnel it back into the company because we found a mobile home in Piedmont, South Carolina. I'll show pictures of it here, that this person was asking for $20,000 for it. Well, we go and we check it out just to see what the situation is, and like if it was like one of those like too good to be true kind of deals, because it's not the land as well. It's on a lot, being lot rented every single month, but it is the mobile home, and the mobile home is a great condition and a great location, especially even at that price. It was still at 20,000. It was still too low.
It was 20,000, great condition, great location, cheap as hell lot rent, and they were getting a $500 spread at the current rate. So we were like,
tenant occupied,
wanting to live long term at the place at the rates they have, and we were like, wait, this sounds literally too easy. Something's wrong here. But we're checking it out.
Yeah,
obviously.
so we went there immediately and we checked it out. And basically what was going on, it was the cardinal sin of landlording.
Oh, yeah.
The cardinal sin.
Not just landlording. This is just in general business.
Well, yeah. If you, anyone that's an entrepreneur, anyone looking to be an entrepreneur, anyone wanting to do anything, I don't care if it's construction, plumbing, like doing owner finance deals, doing landlord route, like anything where you are an entrepreneur, do not do business with family. Especially if you are going to be above legally over that family member. Especially if you're going to be in that situation. That's exactly what the problem was here. So the guy had gotten plenty of offers for his full asking and everything else like that. But the problem was that everyone that was giving him that wanted to move into the home. He was renting it to his great aunt. And so the seller was renting it to his great aunt and was dealing with a unreasonable amount of family drama and issues over this rental. To give you an example, when we showed up, I'll admit the seller made the mistake. He should have forewarned them that he was looking to sell. He hadn't told them that he literally was advertising.
He had advertised the home for like 5 days, and then we come out there. I guess we were the first people to go up. Now I think about it, nobody else.
Or he may have been showing it when they weren't
there. But yeah, anyways, we showed up, and so it was. Oh hell,
there was
loose.
there was 4 older ladies,
very older, like
very
70
older.
plus.
Yeah, older ladies sitting in the kitchen area, and let me tell you, the second we walked in and he told them like, yeah, these 2 guys are potentially looking to buy the home.
Oh man, everybody had an opinion, and we heard it.
Minutes, in that situation as the investor, you just stay polite. You just like, hey, I apologize. I didn't mean to intrude or anything else. Because they were directing it at the seller. You just stay polite. You stay quiet, and you just keep going from there. I'm not kidding. It was 20 minutes of like just constant like bickering and like balking at him and everything else like that. And I was like, okay, I understand. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I understand the situation. 100%. I already see what the problem was.
This man was looking to get out of dealing with his family, and that was the reason he was selling it for so low, with a great return, with a great asset.
Yeah.
no sense otherwise till you saw what was going on. You're like, oh, this man said I'm done.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He was done. He didn't want to deal with his family. He didn't want to deal with the maintenance of it. No matter what he did, it was never good enough, which blew my mind, by the way, because like I said, when we looked at that mobile home, I couldn't believe that the squawking hen squad over there was bitching at him for some of the things that were wrong with the home. Dude, this home is immaculate. I mean, literally picture perfect home. I'm like, what are you complaining about? It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I'd probably say about 900 square foot.
It's almost exactly like, I'm not even making this up, like the other mobile homes we have at the mobile home park. Like, for example, 118. It's like the exact same make, model, and year. Like, I wish I was kidding. And yet, it was in better condition than 108.
Yeah.
Like, it is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, it is so good. Way more valuable.
And they were sitting there complaining about it. I was like, okay, I see the exact situation. So basically, we looked through the home. I couldn't find a single problem. I crawled underneath the home trying to find a problem so him and I could potentially negotiate him down or try to like figure out what to do or whatever else. I couldn't find a problem. There was nothing for me to argue.
Mm-hmm.
I could not argue anything about the home.
Recently installed floors.
Recently repaired roof.
Repaired roof.
Actually replaced.
Yeah.
Because they literally did the
talking about the cool seal stuff?
Yeah, the cool seal. Yeah, they literally just recently did the cool seal 2 years ago, and it was very obvious.
Yeah, anyways, it was a bunch of stuff. Oh, no, the water heater had gotten replaced and fixed. Dude, it was like literally, he was just naming off all the stuff that had been done in like 6 months, and we were like, and you're selling it for what?
Yeah, it made no sense. So we obviously Derek and I talked amongst each other, and it was very obvious that his biggest concern is he did not want the great aunt to leave. That was the seller's biggest concern in this situation. And we're like, okay. So Derek and I talked amongst each other. I'm like, all right, we had the money to pay the full 20.
And remember, he wanted 20 as long as his grandmother could
yes,
stay.
That was
generally the condition. Okay.
So, like, we had the money for 20, but like any good investor, you got to wheel and deal, baby. So here's what we came up with. So we asked him if we could pay him $15,000, like cash, like just done. Because again, this is a mobile home, so it's not a typical real estate closing. He literally just gives you the title, you sign off on it, boom, file it, it's yours. Those transactions can be done in 15 minutes flat. That's how fast they can go. So, we offered him $15,000 cash. We told him that we would put her on a 5-year lease for $665 a month, which was her current rate, and we would still cover the $165 in lot rent. And in the event that lot rent increased, that's when we would increase her rent in proportion to the increase in lot rent. So we would still be making a flat $500 every single month off of that unit. Yep. So it would make sense for us to invest into it, and then just like a little over caveats and whatnot. So
that way we can base around our budget. We know that we're getting roughly $500 a month back, barring any repairs or anything that we need. So that means that theoretically speaking, we're only having to get $500 payments every single month until we get the $15,000 back, which, top of my head, I think it was like 2.5 years. So that's it. That's
because 500 times 12 is $6,000. So and then, I mean, we're literally 2.5 years we'd be making a return.
No.
That is, I'm sorry, 3. No,
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
In 2.5 years, we would literally make a full return on our money.
Yeah, and remember, we're locking this lady into a 5-year deal, which means we are locking her in, once again, barring repairs and taxes, to doubling our money.
It was a guaranteed double our money deal, and it was exactly what he sat there and he wanted. He agreed to it. We shook on it. Now, let me tell you this, okay? This is why you never leave anything up to verbal when it comes to real estate. Ever. Like standard practice for our company, Derek texted him the terms, texted the seller the terms that we agreed to, got him to respond back saying that he agreed to those terms. on top of obviously the handshake deal and everything else like that.
With witnesses.
With
Because
witnesses.
it was like one of the grandmothers plus Vlad obviously was there.
And so then the next day we were supposed to meet. So we met on a Sunday. We were supposed to meet with them on Monday to literally pay the cashier's check,
Because he wanted to
sign everything
check,
up.
we had to go to the bank, and so the bank's not open on Sunday.
So ready to go. We got an excuse of why we couldn't meet on Monday. Okay, sure, not a problem. Makes sense. Hey, things come up. I understand. All right, well, let's meet Tuesday. Got an excuse on why we couldn't meet Tuesday. Okay, got an excuse on why we couldn't meet Wednesday. So then Derek and I go to the people who own the lot to go ahead and start the process of transferring over the lot into our name so we can go ahead and start paying for it because, I mean, we're buying the mobile home. We're fulfilling our end of the agreement since we can't meet to do all the signings, sign her onto the 5-year deal or do anything else like that. Hey, we gotta facilitate the agreement. Let's keep it going. Then the seller contacts Derek and tells him that he's mad about us meeting with the owner.
At 2 o'clock in the morning.
At 2 o'clock in the morning.
After we had met with the landowner for the land lot rent.
Yeah, telling us that he's mad for us meeting with the owner and like moving on without him and things like that, and that he was now not going to sell it to us. He was going to sell it to the son of the tenant. So, let me explain something to you here. If you agree, and even if you shake hands and that's it, that's the only part of it. If you agree to sell something to someone in the state of South Carolina, you have entered into a purchase and sale agreement. And if you guys have a date that the payment is supposed to be made, if that person has the money and is ready to pay and can prove it,
willing, and able.
Yeah, if they're able to prove it, you must sell it to them. You agree to it. Otherwise, they can take you to court for damages of it. Now, the problem in real estate transactions, very hard to quantify damages. And here's what I mean by that. If somebody enters into a purchase and sale agreement with you, and you sit there and you put down like $500 as earnest in a typical agreement or whatever else, and then they just say, no, I'm not going to sell it to you, I'm out. And they give you back your earnest, yeah, you lost the potential income, but in court you can't argue potential or speculative income. You have to argue hard facts on this income that could have been or whatever else. So normally it's not worth it to argue. You could also go to court and force a sale. Because if you have a purchase sale, the other person isn't willing to perform, you can then go to court and you could force a sale. But if your agreement doesn't have a thing saying in there that the prevailing party will pay the other party's attorney's fees and so on and so forth, it's kind of, I can't remember the exact wording. Basically what it means is that if you win, they have to pay your attorney's fees. If they win, you have to pay their attorney's fees. That it's a double-edged sword, but it does work because what you could do is that the money that you spend on suing them comes off the purchase price of the house because they're responsible to pay for that money. So you're not losing anything. You were going to spend the same amount of money. They're the ones losing the money.
Yeah, so in this particular case, if we were to try to sue them to force the sale, we have to sue for the sale price, obviously, for $15,000, which means we have to have $15,000 available to close. Then we'd also have to factor in, because we didn't have it specified in the text messages, the attorney's fees, which probably between $3,000 and $5,000, which means that we now would have been at $20,000
paying for this home,
paying for the home, which once again we could have, but it's at the same time now it's even less opportunity to make it work, because if we would have forced the sale, we've also forced all the terms of the sale, which means we've been stuck with the lady for 5 years at a reduced rental income when for rents in that area are like $200 more.
I could rent that mobile home for probably about $750 to $800 a month. I'm very confident in that, if not $850.
Yeah, so basically it became to a point where it was like, is it worth it to go to court, be tied up into this for like 5, 6, 7 months, where our money's also tied up because we can't just go blow that money on something else, because if at any point the court date happens and we don't have the money and funds available, we have effectively just forfeited the suit. So we basically have to have money set aside, locked up, doing nothing, while we have to pay out of pocket for our attorney, which we'll never get reimbursed for, and we're guaranteed locking ourselves in to a contract for a lesser amount of return, when we probably could just take that money and dump it into something.
And that's to force the sale. Plus, with a title, You could, again, 15 minutes. It takes 15 minutes. If it was a traditional closing, we could literally stop the closing for like a real estate property. We can actually stop it and lock it on to that lawsuit to where our lawsuit has to finish before they're able to sell it. But
yeah, you put what is called a list pendant.
Yeah, a list pendants. But because it's a title, dude, we couldn't see a judge fast enough to stop the transaction. Yep. Like it'd be gone. But then our attorney told us something that was interesting. He was like, wait, so part of your guys' agreement was that you had to sign this lady onto a 5-year lease that was literally required for you to purchase it? And we were like, yes. He's like, you have quantifiable damages. Mm-hmm. Now, what you have to do is that you have to then take the sale price of the home, because again, that's money you're going to lose. You have to factor out proper maintenance, taxes, and repairs, because that's money you're going to lose. You have to factor out the lot rent, because that's money you're going to lose. And then whatever that number is actually your quantifiable profit that you would have gotten off of that home, which for our case actually came out to being $12,000. Mm-hmm. The total amount we would earn off of this home over the course of that 5 years under that agreement would have been $39,000. That's the gross, but the profit is actually going to be 12, because like I said, you got to factor out the sales price and everything else like that. And so when we saw that, we were like, okay. Then in small claims court, though, you can't sue anybody for more than $7,500. So our attorney told us, don't hire me to sue. Take him to small claims court. You guys have a case. It's pretty quantifiable. It's very simple to see the transaction and exactly what had to happen, because of the fact that that lease was tied into the agreement and required for us to perform in order to basically buy the home. Because of that, we had quantifiable damages. So we were literally ready to take him to small claims court for $7,500. So we tried to get the seller to work with us, because again, on Wednesday, that's when he told us he wasn't going to sell. We tried to tell him like, hey, let's not be hasty. We still want to buy this home. We're not giving up this home. Let's try to work this out first. And we didn't hear anything all day Thursday. Friday, we go up there and I send out certified mail letter to his home address that I was able to find by doing a lot of like background searches and things like that. And we sat there and we pinned a notice to the door of the actual house, basically stating that we are not giving up our right to purchase this property. We are not agreeing to sell this property to anybody, that we are still ready and willing to facilitate the transaction and go through with it, and that we are giving him 7 days, because we posted it on a Friday. We're giving him till Friday to come through and perform on this agreement before we start seeking legal damages for this property. Then, so we put up that notice, we put a multitude of contact information so they could be reached back out to us, and so on and so forth. I get the certified mail return receipt
Well, he did
Monday.
call that same day, remember? Remember he called me?
Oh, yeah. He did call.
Called me like 3 hours after he put the notice up.
Yeah, and then and the argument the seller tried to make was literally, we don't have a purchase and sale agreement. And I was like, well, Derek was like, okay.
That's pretty much what I said.
Because at that point, you just let the courts decide. There's not much more to discuss there. If they're wanting to argue, because he is right. If he argues that we didn't have a purchase and sale agreement, if he could prove we didn't have a purchase and sale agreement, yeah, he's totally right. There's nothing like somebody making you an offer and you'd be like, I'll think about it. Let me think about it. That's not a purchase and sale agreement. That's somebody still on the fence if they want to go with it. You shake hands, you send a text message agreement, you get all this stuff, and some of it in writing and whatnot. No, you clearly had a purchase and sale agreement.
And you reiterate 3 times after the date that
in writing
that you are selling it to us.
Yeah.
He literally said, yes, I'm selling it to you. We'll meet this day. We'll meet this time. Yes, I'm selling it to you. I apologize for the delays. Yes, I'm still planning on selling it to you. I'm sorry for all these issues. What do you mean?
Yeah. So
it's all about the intent with court.
So then what happened from there is that I get the certified mail return receipt on Tuesday that it was received and it was signed off on. Basically that same notice that we pinned to the door. Just that it's redundancy for court reasons. Like I'm redundantly trying to make this transaction facilitate. Like I made multiple attempts to reach out and try to facilitate a transaction. That's what a judge is going to want to see. Well, then he reaches out to us out of the blue and is like,
at 12:30 at night, because this dude
Yeah.
loves reaching out to me way beyond business hours, which luckily I work like 24/7 anyway, so it wasn't a big deal.
so
It's just like, what the hell?
he reaches out to Derek and he's like, I want to sell it to you guys. Can we meet tomorrow and just get it done? I have the title. I'm ready to just sell it. I'm done. So the thing is that in those notices and stuff like that, we already had the cashier's check. We had it ready on the previous Monday. And we hadn't put it back because, again, if you dispose of the funds that you're supposed to be using to purchase this, you'll lose your entire argument, your entire case that you were trying to act in good faith to come through on the purchase. So we were sitting on that cashier's check, and I felt really dumb because literally for like a week and a half, I'm walking around with a $15,000 cashier's check on me. And then we're like, okay, yeah, sure, we're ready to go. So we go and we meet up, and sure enough, it's exactly what we thought. The son found out that he was selling it. He found out the sales price. He offered him the sales price or a little bit more. We don't know. And then kept jerking his chain about when he's coming through. And then was asking him to get an inspection done, to get an appraising done, to finish out all these other things.
Yeah.
And he was
all this for $15,000.
For $15,000, and he was demanding all this other stuff, and so on and so forth, and like to go on ahead and get it insured.
He
first
also wanted him to start doing all the work and repair it all first before he bought it. So like he wanted like literally like $4,000 to $5,000 worth of work done before the guy would commit to the purchase. And the seller was like, "Dude, what?"
And it sounds like that wasn't what they agreed to. It sounds like, because we told him we'd be buying it as is, nothing else needs to be done, and that's exactly what I'm assuming they said as well. Like, well, hey, I'll just buy it from you. And then kept doing this, and then the guy, seeing the potential impending lawsuit, he said, I mean, to be fair for the seller, he said that he wasn't taking it seriously. We were 100% serious. We were going to go through with it if he didn't come through. But obviously, like anything in court, you don't know until you show up. Honestly, it could go either way. But yeah, we were sitting there, and like obviously we were threatening him with a lawsuit and whatnot. He has this person yanking his chain, not coming through. So he's like, screw it. He's like, I don't care. And so he wants to start working with us, and so on and so forth. And so that day we paid the $15,000. We signed over the title. We got everything resolved, and we were like, okay, let's back off on the family and whatnot. Let's give them a little bit of time, and like let's go on ahead and let's start working towards getting her in that 5-year lease like we promised and what we agreed to. Oh man, here's the other problem. Never let family dictate your living situation to you. Second problem. So the seller was done. He was completely out and it was taken care of. The son was arguing that he's not going to sign anything with us, and that he wants to keep it on a month-to-month verbal.
Remember, we were guaranteeing 5
years
at the rate
$665. And by the way, this is in Greenville County, mind you.
So once again, if the lady were to leave today and we were to re-rent it, minimum $800, if not $850. Minimum. Like
I really think I can get $800 for it. I really do.
We have a backlog of people who's constantly looking for houses, and many of them have offered $900 to $1,000 for some of the homes we have if they were just fixed up a little more. This is basically that option, a fixed up home. So there's no way we weren't going to get that money. I'm willing to guarantee that. And they were like, no, we don't want your guaranteed safest, best position option that you're willing to give us. We would rather be put in the worst position where we're guaranteed to get kicked out at any minute, rents raised, and whatever other options.
Let me explain something to you guys.
What?
On a verbal month-to-month, and even a normal month-to-month lease, all the landlord has to do by South Carolina Landlord-Tenant Act is that if he is going to raise the rents on you, he must simply put a notice on your door and send it to whatever other agreed upon like things that you guys have agreed to put notices to. He just simply has to send the notice and put it on your door telling you that next month, 30 days, he is going to be raising the rents to X.
Yeah.
And that is legally binding.
It could be anything too, which is the worst part.
Yeah.
There's no
so it could
cap
be
to
like
it.
665, and then you get the 30-day notice, and you're told it's going to be 995.
Yeah.
And you literally have 30 days to figure it out.
It's
and
basically
if you
like
don't,
eviction without having to evict. It's one way landlords will do this.
And if you don't figure it out, like they're saying, you start the eviction process on it and continue on from there. That's what a month-to-month gets you. In a 5-year agreement like that, we cannot raise the rents.
Mm-hmm.
The only way we can raise the rents is if lot rent increases on us. That's the only caveat in that agreement.
Yep. And since we have no control over lot rent, theoretically, we're never raising the rent ever. Because, once again, if the lot rent stays $165 for 5 years, then the rent forever also stayed $665. Mm-hmm. If it just happens to go up to $200 or something, like $35 or whatever, then that means that, unfortunately, her rent goes to $700. But it doesn't mean we did anything. We're simply honoring our end of the deal for 5 years like the sale dictated. And then this guy went full idiot.
And then it got even worse because then we sent them the month-to-month agreement and we sent them the 5-year agreement. And then they were contacting the seller who had already sold it. The title was already transferred. Like, literally, the ink is dry on the title. Like, that's how fast we got it transferred over.
Oh, and he was done, too.
The seller was done.
Literally, after, you could tell, after he got the $15,000 check,
he was staring at the check for like 20 minutes. Just staring at the check.
The other thing that was funny too is
he would like look up, like say something, and then just like go back to the check.
My favorite part too is the next day when we went to go to the DMV to file it, just so we can get immediately titled in our name before there's any liens or judgments or issues on it. The funniest thing was I asked for the contact information for the son because they wanted to manage everything on their mother's behalf.
They would not allow us to talk to the woman who's living in the house, who's going to be the most affected by this situation.
So I was like, whatever, fine, we'll be willing to work with your circus of a family. So anyways, basically send me the contact information, and the funniest thing happened. It was that day, the Thursday we met, signed off the paperwork. We met after hours, so that's why we couldn't go to the DMV. So we had to go to the DMV the next morning. But in the text message, I didn't notice until the next day when we were driving to the DMV to talk with him at the same time.
He sent a screenshot of the contact information, right?
And at the very bottom, within about an hour after we had left, and then another time after that with 2 missed calls, aka the dude got the $15,000 check and said, "I'm not dealing with anything else ever again."
Yeah, he bounced out. He was
literally
done.
bounced out.
Just done. And so
or so we thought until another issue happened. Then
so then after we sent the agreements and whatnot, he is getting bitched out, and I couldn't believe this. The son was telling him that...
So one thing we never mentioned is part of the deal that we had originally was that there was a weak area of the floor, but they had already had the materials. They just needed to finish the floor, and that's what we agreed to.
Like literally a brand new piece of like wood to put down for the floor, and then actual flooring to go ahead and lay out.
So basically fix the subfloor and then put over the vinyl flooring on top. Then that was going to be done originally in the initial deal that we had made, $15,000, 5-year deal. You finish the floors, and then the other thing was don't touch the back deck. We'll fix that later. Then when we had to do the secondary meetup, where we actually finalized the closing,
the guy was so done. He asked us if he could back out of that, and we're like, sure.
He just wanted to know. We only told him just drop off the material because we can always just get a different contractor out there to fix it, or we'll do it ourselves because it's not that much work. And so keeping it up to where we're at now. So this is after the DMV. We've already sent the contract. The family is bitching out the seller. The seller then reaches out to me because the son of the great aunt, the tenant that's living there,
this
guy is a fucking idiot, literally. So he tells the seller that he has to bring the material to the home. The seller told us in the past that this son also had supplied what material was already there, because it was like half of it had already been remodeled and the other half was what he's going to finish. So we already knew that the son at some point in time had supplied some of that material. Well, catching back up to where we are, the son then says, I don't want to work with these guys at all, basically let them be damned kind of thing. I don't want to give them any of that floor, and I'm going to back it up. I want you to pay me, to the seller, what you already have used of the floor being the initial part before we bought it, $700-800, whatever it was there, and then I'm taking back the rest of the floor. And so the seller reached out to me and he was like, okay.
But no. Here's the thing. He was telling him that he's going to take back the floor and that we are going to sue him.
The seller.
The seller. He was telling him that we, on our behalf, was telling him that we are going to sue him for that flooring because it was part of the deal.
Because he didn't provide it in that case. AKA, the guy was going to steal
the floor
and then have us somehow threaten to sue the seller for not supplying the floor that he did supply that is stolen.
Yes. Let me explain to you. That doesn't require a lawsuit. That just requires me calling the cops.
Yeah, that's illegal. He
you
literally admitted...
You were admitting that you were going to steal it because the thing is...
It's premeditated theft.
Listen.
What?
When you buy a house, okay, the structural parts of the house, sinks, flooring, roof, windows, doors, doorknobs, structural parts of the house are considered your property upon purchase. So, if he were to go in there and steal them, because we bought the house as is, which means we're buying everything of the house in its as is condition. So for him to go and steal the floors, he's not stealing from him, he's stealing from us, and you better believe we would press charges in a heartbeat.
And so the seller called us like 5 days after the deal had closed, kind of worried.
Confirming.
He was like, just to make sure this is what I've been told. Am I going to be in trouble? Because I just was told to drop off the materials. I was like, no, dude. I'm like, drop off the materials. The moment you do, I was like, send a picture to me, providing that you've obviously done your end of the bargain. You are 100% free and clear. I was like, you can go on vacation. You can cut communication with me. You're done. You're 100% legally not held liable.
Yeah, like we already got the title transferred. Yeah. Everything's done. Like literally, drop off the flooring, done.
Yeah,
we're out.
You can't be held liable for your family committing illegal acts. I'm like, dude, that's just them being stupid. And since he's admitted to it, we were like, well, give us his information so when he does steal it, we can send a suit to him. But generally... Anyways, long story short, that kind of got resolved, and then like there was a whole other thing that happened in the background where it was like he wanted kind of like the confirmation of the email messages we had. He wanted to see the leases and stuff, and these people were delaying the hell out of it. They were daisy chaining the shit out of that deal. Because we just wanted to get the lady to sign the paperwork, the tenant, and this was like
they
a 5-day
weren't letting
process.
us sign it with her. They weren't letting us anywhere near her. They weren't letting us talk to her. We had to do it all through them. They were saying they wouldn't let her sign it, that they would have to be the ones to sign it because of Social Security reasons or something like that, which makes absolutely no sense because the lot was technically, there's like a covenant thing that they have in that lot. They're doing a weird thing for the lot rental thing there. But it's basically like a covenant thing with the person that's living there. Like that covenant thing is signed with her on her name and so on and so forth. They weren't letting us do anything with it. And we're just like, okay, well, look, rent's due on the 1st, so figure it out.
Yeah, so like basically you got 7 days to figure it out. And long story short, to kind of wrap this all up, basically they finally committed. It looks like after they probably had their, background family feud of some kind. Because it was weird timing that we had just sent all this stuff over to the seller, and the seller somehow his family wanted to know what was going on. He sends all this information over to the family, and then suddenly 24 hours later, they want to sign contracts. So we're pretty sure there was some crazy stuff going on in the background.
Now, here's the disgusting thing. I just do want to bring this up. Okay. The tenant that is living over at this new property, for us it's new, but obviously for her, she's been living there for like a multitude of months.
Yeah, it was like 6 months.
The tenant that's been living there, we find out when we go and talk to her, she explains to us that she had been looking at other properties with her family during this time frame of this sale. That these properties were in god-awful condition for more than what she's paying there.
Remember, we also have these houses in god-awful condition that we charge more for.
And then she's like, I couldn't believe it. Like, there was nothing, and anything that was actually good was so expensive. It'd be out of my price point and things like that. And she's like, I was up so many nights crying because I did not want to move. I just wanted to stay here. I just wanted to have security here. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to stay here. I like it here. I don't want to move. And it's very obvious. She has like these like plates and decorative things. Like you guys see in the photos, like these little
yeah,
decorative
it is
plates
her
and stuff
home.
like that. It's her home. Of course she doesn't want to sit there and move. And the thing that blew my mind is they've been daisy chaining her around. She hasn't been allowed to talk to us, and they've been
To this point, by the way,
that was the first communication
the
we
only
have said.
semi-interaction we've ever had was like 3 weeks prior when we
With
had
the hidden quacking Scott.
Yeah, basically we got yelled at for showing up unannounced.
Yeah.
We never met with her, never talked with her, didn't have her name, didn't ever see her face, never even knew what she looked like outside of that moment in time. We didn't finally meet with her until after the family kind of agreed on their behalf that they want to do the lease and agree to the 5-year term. We physically met with her, and honestly, she was a super nice lady.
Very nice old lady. Exactly what you expect. And the thing is, we went, because the other thing that annoyed us is that they just sent her the agreements for her to just sign off on. And look, that's not how we do business. You sign up, when you sign off with something on us, we expect and demand that you honor your agreement and your portion of the agreement, just like you have every right to expect and demand us to honor ours. So we basically consider that contract that she had already signed invalid. We sat down with her like we do with every single one of our tenants to finally go over the contract with her line by line, as she is rightfully due to have done, like we would do with anybody else. Absolutely absurd. They've been running her around doing all this other stuff. And here's the other thing that pisses us off the most, by the way. So once again, this family that's been running her around and making this entire transaction retardedly difficult, this same exact family that's been doing all this is the same ones that said that they were going to buy the home, but have never made an offer to us to purchase it from us.
We could still sell it right now. They were so eager to buy it from the seller, they haven't offered us, be like, hey, can we also buy it for like 15, maybe 16, maybe 17 grand? They have never mentioned, even thought about it, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's absurd.
Clearly
the lady just
serious.
wanted to stay there. We were offering the exact thing that she wanted, guaranteed for 5 years at same rates and everything else, like barring any kind of lot increase. And then this family just royally was fucking it for her. Like, honestly, she was on the last time frame verge. That's why on Friday, by the way, we went and filed an eviction. No, we were going to go to her if we didn't get a final response on Friday. We were going to go to her directly and be like, look, I don't care about anybody else. You're the one that lives here. Let's see if we can't make a deal. Here's what we promise to do. Here's what we promise to provide. Are you interested in working with us? You'll still be able to stay here and everything else. If not, let us know. And obviously, we'll just tell us a move out date or whatever else. Because the thing is that we shouldn't be dealing with all these people in all these other states on her behalf, because she was totally competent and mentally capable of making her own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else was sitting there round and round in loops all over the place and bickering amongst each other. And this is what pissed me off too, is that her best interest was never taken into account. Multiple times. I want to stay here. I don't want to leave here. I like it here. That's it.
Yeah. And let me tell
Multiple
you, she
times.
was very happy, very ecstatic with the fact that the lease was done and everything was resolved and she didn't have to move. And we were like, look, you're here for 5 years. You can leave whenever you want, obviously, but
yeah, we're not
years.
going to lock her in. If she decides she wants to leave, it's in our best interest to let her leave. I'm not going to pursue her if she wants to leave on that 5-year lease.
As I kept telling Vlad, there is zero incentive for us to have her there.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any justification other than we just have to honor the contract.
That's it.
If that wasn't in the deal, I'm sorry. Rent's going to $800, $850. Can't pay it, leave. Somebody else come in. It's just, there is no reason to be dealing with the drama of the family when there is a plethora of other people who are desperate to live in that home.
Yep.
Zero incentive. But it all worked out, so.
And we have a feeling that I think that she pulled the plug on it and said that she's done, she's signing on it, she doesn't want to hear anything, she wants to stay there. That's what we think happened in that time frame while everything was going on. Because, dude, oh my God, I feel bad for that woman. When we were with her, that phone must have been going off like 20 times
we were
in
there
our
for
conversation.
Like 40 minutes maybe, and the phone went off like every 2 minutes.
Absolutely absurd. Like, anyway, so yeah, that was the entire situation with that. But like we mentioned before, 2.5 years paid off. That rest of 2.5 years, profit, baby.
And we've already gotten our first payment. This is technically for the payment of April, so we already have returned $500 off of the 15 we've spent. So we're now negative 14.5. We'll count that technically in the next video. But the idea is that generally speaking, we got a profit-producing asset out the freaking gate. Didn't have to do anything outside of deal with some family drama, and it's a golden goose.
And that's the thing. I mean, for us, it took, like, that entire deal, the notices, the potential research on the lawsuit, the dealing with the family and everything else, 10 hours over the course of multiple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
For an asset that's going to pay itself off in 2.5 years. Hell yeah, I'll deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you become an investor. I don't know how else to put it.
That's right.
You solve other people's problems, and then you profit and win for yourself in the process of doing so, while giving them exactly what they want. Because once again, the win-win situation we always talk about. She wins because she got a 5-year guaranteed lease to stay in that property at roughly the exact same price across that total 5 years. We win because it's going to produce an income in 2.5, or it's going to pay itself off in 2.5 years, and then it's pure profit from there. Seller won because he doesn't have to deal with the family. Win-win-win. And the family can go yeet itself.
Yeah. They may not have won. I don't know.
I don't care about that.
That's their problem.
They weren't part of the transaction.
Part of the deal. Exactly.
So yeah. So now moving on to kind of wrap things up, because this has already been a long video. We actually had to put out an abandonment notice on 946 John Hart, because those people were also a little behind, and they were on a payment plan, and they were doing well with the payment plan, and have disappeared. No contact, nothing. We actually went to the house today to go check it out. I have some pictures that obviously show like what we think is going on with like the abandonment of it and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's pretty obviously abandoned. At this point, we're just waiting out the time frame. And then once we get a confirmation, or once we don't hear anything from, we're going to take back that house, owner finance it again, and start the process all over again. And for the last update, probably the dumbest thing that happened to us in March while we were doing all these deals, wheeling and dealing, and so on and so forth. So if you guys remember, we have that company credit card, Divvy. We had a 5K credit limit on it. They randomly dropped our limit down to 2K.
Yeah, because it was like, okay, so it was the weirdest thing, right? It really didn't make any sense. So, as you know, every other month we get the water bill, which is already about 2K, and we have, I'm like 80% sure of what I'm about to say here, because you can look at the videos and know for sure, we have every single month paid at least $3,000, maybe $3,500, just from, you know, the water bills themselves, random
gas
repair
expenditures,
costs,
food,
yeah, all the other miscellaneous expenses. Plus, we put our cell phone bills on that and stuff, and other recurring expenses. So we've always paid at least $3,000 since the inception of that card, literally. And then, so it comes up. This is before the bill is due, and we had normally a $5,000 limit. And at the time,
we were trying to pay the car insurance.
Yeah, we were trying to pay the car insurance, which was like $500 or something. And so we normally have a $5,000 limit. We didn't put the water bill on it yet, because we don't pay the water bill until like the 16th, to make sure it goes on the next bill. And we'd only put on maybe $1,000 something at the time, and it was just to where the amount of money of the
it was $1,800 on the card,
yeah,
and the car insurance payment for our company vehicles and whatnot,
yep,
was $570.
Yeah, and so we didn't know at the time it was $2,000 limit. We kept trying to pay it. It kept saying failed, and we're like, maybe it's the specific card, maybe it got locked or something for failed payments or theft or something. We tried different cards, and we tried the virtual cards that Divvy offered. We're like, what the hell is going on? So we called it in, figured out what was going on, and they tell us that due to a routine audit or something that they do every so often, due to this potential suspicious activity with our account, like basically the way we're handling it or something, whatever BS they want to argue, they decided to reduce our rate from $5,000 to $2,000. And we're like, okay. So then I responded back with, a request to increase it back to $5,000, because they said that it was an offer that we could do. I do, in fact, take advantage of that offer. I send in our entire freaking report showing that when we initially started, when we got the company credit card to start with, we had literally one asset, which was 946 John Hart. So we were, technically a company that was negative like 14, 15 grand producing 400 something. So we were really looking bad. We didn't even have the full closing done yet on the mobile home park when we had applied and they got approved. We had the mobile home park at that time. So then we had to add in the mobile home park income and everything else. And then obviously we added in at some point in there randomly 641 Barnwell. It started producing income. So then I showed them that within, the 2021 fiscal year, when we applied and then where we finished, we were in a substantially better position, revenue-wise at least, because that's what they usually care for, not so much profit, just revenue. And they were like, yeah, unfortunately, the credit limit you have, or the credit limit you're requesting, is too high of a percentage for the ratio of your revenue, of your current monthly revenue. And we're like, you gave us a $5,000 limit.
As an unknown startup,
As an unknown startup producing $460. We now produce like 50 grand, over the course of a year, give or take, because it's like $5 grand a month or something. Yeah, we're averaging, give or take, mobile home park problems, plus other, buildings and whatnot. Where revenue is around $5,000 to $6,000 a month, growing, because we've literally shown every single month, outside of a couple hiccups here and there, that it's getting bigger. And you're going to say, when we have already proven that we've been able to pay a $3,000 bill every month, that the limit you're going to put us at is below what we've already been paying and far below what you initially offered, and we've never missed a payment, never been late, never had any issues, never had any hiccups, nothing. And they're like, yeah, sorry, you can try again in 90 days. And we're like, great, all right, we'll get a new credit card at some point.
I mean, this year we're trying to see if we can't branch out and get other company credit cards anyway. It's not a huge deal. Very, very annoying. That's like you having a perfectly good paying tenant that is paid on time every single time. You look at his financials, you're like, I don't know how he does it, but he keeps paying, so I'm not going to care about it. But instead of just doing that, you look at his financials like, oh, you can't afford to pay this, and you just take it away. It's like, but they've done nothing to fail at it. No, you can't afford to pay this. It's such a weird dictation, but whatever. I'm done talking about the Divvy card. I find that dumb. Hopefully we'll have some good news for you guys, probably here in the next couple of months, on other business cards that are actual credit cards, not just charge cards and stuff like that. Things that we find, because the thing is, my credit has finally started going up. His has been skyrocketing.
Oh my God, I just remembered we did one other thing this month.
What's that?
Paid our taxes. Delaware.
Oh. So, as you guys know...
I don't know how it just hit me, because I was doing the math here, and I'm like, I feel like we're missing a big bill.
So, as you guys know, we're a Delaware corporation, by all legal entities and everything else, even though the vast majority of our operations are in South Carolina through another LLC. The thing is, though, is that we actually made a mistake, and you have to file your taxes with Delaware early, and we missed the filing date, and we ended up having to pay like a retarded fee for missing our filing date to just file the fact that we are, basically we are still a corporation, we are still active, here's our revenue, here's how many shares we have.
Yeah, so, and I apologize, I'm literally grabbing the exact number so I can make sure the budget's correct. But basically, yeah, so as you know, with regular taxes, like personal taxes and corporate taxes for like the IRS, this is for federal, everything is due on the 15th of April. Well, we knew that the corporate taxes for Delaware were due in March, but for some reason, this is my fault, I thought it was also on the 15th. It's in fact the 1st. So we were like on the 9th, and we're like, yeah, we should probably get around to doing this franchise taxes. And then it was like, yeah, you're late. You missed your deadline. And we're like, crap.
We paid $600 towards our franchise tax, and most of that was because of a retard fee.
Anyhow, so once again, it's actually a super simple process. So it's not as intricate as, say, like your like when you file your W-2s, for example, for a 1040 easy, or any other various stuff you do for like your LLCs or anything. Basically, all they required is, they have like two options, and I'm not going to get into the difference between the two, but the way that they kind of factor it out is either based on the value of the shares or the value of the company divided by the shares, pretty much. And so if you did it by the value of the shares, based on the amount of shares that you put out or whatever, our tax bill was like $50-something thousand. And we were like, no, that is way too damn high. We obviously can't afford that. So we already knew this going into it because I remember looking into this last year. They said this is going to be the biggest fear that happens to everybody because they by default go to this method. Because you're a broke ass company, basically, you're going to do this other method instead. And so then there's like a math calculation to it, and it came out to be that as long as you're under $1 million in complete and total net valued assets, then they only charge $400, and then every million above that, rounded to the next million, will be an additional $400, and then some share cost and whatnot from there. So we, being under $1 million at the time, were valued somewhere around $500,000, give and take the mobile home part. Mostly that's the biggest concern of cost. But based off of revenue, it's around $500,000.
I can't pull up the same. It was about $680.
Yeah, we'll wing it. I think it was like $625 actually, but whatever.
Sure.
Anyway,
600 plus.
So the budget could be off by like $50. We'll fix it in the next video. So anyhow, long story short, when we went to go pay for the bill, it actually has a pretty neat little calculation in there. So once again, we only have to pay $400 because we're under $1 million, and then we had to pay an additional $200 for the late fee, which is ridiculously high, by the way. And then we had to pay an additional like 1.5% or something of some valuation on top of that as an additional monthly late fee. So we had to pay like $625, $645, something like that. But generally speaking, if we actually paid on time, it would have only been $400. And then every $1 million value, give or take, that we get into, like bracket, is an additional $400. So it's really not that bad. So like say we were a net worth of a $4 million company, it's $1,600. It's really not that bad when you really think about it. It sounds like a lot, $1,600 for paying taxes, but it's like, at the same time you get the benefit.
The net worth of your company, it's an absurdly cheap amount percentage wise compared to what your company's.
So now we understand why everybody and their mom literally pays franchise taxes in Delaware instead of their domestic state, because it's quite cheap. All right, so now that I've fixed the budget, adding in that roughly $625 is what I'm going with until I have to fix it next video if I need to. We had a really good month. Honestly, we just had a very good month. So not only was our personal literally outstanding, our Metra specific portfolio performed quite well, especially given the last few months. So we'll kind of just go in order of the houses. 104, 440 like normal. 108, they did pay a total of $310 for this month. The other 300 or so was credited in the last month when they were doing that payment plan, and so they didn't pay the 2 weeks, and now we're in the third week, which is for the eviction week. 116 pays $425 like always. 118 did not pay anything this month because of when they paid at the very end of last month. It was technically credited for March, so their first payment would be in April for their next monthly rent. 120 paid $425. 126 for some reason always pays $420. I don't know why. I guess they think that's what it is.
I'm just not willing to argue the $5 difference for eviction or whatever.
Yeah, they literally owe us like $70 because it's always been $5 on.
Now, if they keep chipping away $5, then I'll see what the master plan is there.
Like they literally owe us like $70 because it's been that many months that they just knocked off $5, but it's like whatever, it's not a big deal. So then 130. They paid the $650 because remember they were the newer tenant that was looking to pay the extra $100 as a credit towards the owner finance once they get to that point. So they're paying $650. So like he said, it was like nothing ever happened going from the original 130 tenants to the new one. Technically, we're making $50 more, barring dog fees, but because that's what always happened. So then 134 was special this month because if you remember they were behind back in like January, then they paid February's in January.
These were the other people we had on a payment plan,
and so then
they actually came through.
Yeah, they caught up everything and late fees this month. So they paid for technically February. They paid the full $525, so $425 plus $100 late fee, and then they paid like a week late on March. So we only charged them $15, so they paid $440. So in total, they paid, $965, and then we have one.
And bravo, by the way. This is why we always do payment plans. You never know who will actually fix it.
Yeah, exactly. So they're 100% caught up, and they're back to normal rate. 136 was the big whammy of this month. That was the one we had gotten the owner finance for. So they had paid $2,550 down. Obviously, we paid $700 back out, but we'll get to that in the cost here in a minute. But we did get $2,550 down. Then 138 was the lot, so we're getting 300 on that one. We got it already. 946 did pay 365 because they were also on a payment plan until they didn't pay. In the same process, we went and,
Disappeared off the face of the earth.
yeah. So then they paid. So then we had to go do the abandonment. And then 641 Barnwell is still producing 400 a month. So all in all, we have received a grand total this month of $7,250. That is baller. And that does not include the 500 and whatever you want to include for the new property we got, because technically their payment is for April.
We literally collected the payment today.
Yeah.
Today is April 1st.
Yeah, that's why we're so behind on the video. So we're not including her payment in this video. We're including it in the next video because it's technically for April. So that'll be in April's budget. So April's when we start seeing returns on that house. So we don't have it in this portfolio at all. With that being said, like I said, 136, we did to pay $700 back out for the, basically like the exit fee, I guess you can call it. So there was that 700. Then we also, before we even got those people into 136, we had paid the same cleaning crew that had came out and cleaned out 124. We had gotten them.
I don't know what this person is doing. Best damn cleaning crew in all of South Carolina.
So we got them to clean out 136, and it was crazy how fast they literally got it done. I had texted them like 2 hours, like we'll say 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They went out there by like 4 o'clock in that same day and got it done.
It was done by like midnight.
Yeah, it was insane. We were like, how did you even know what to get when? We just texted over the phone. They were like, we just got everything that wasn't like an appliance, and we're like, we went back the next day and we looked at it. It was like spotless, perfect,
crystal clear.
We were like, they're geniuses. They're the greatest company ever. So we paid them $275, and then we led into actually in the down payment. Then Divvy, just regular bills and whatnot, plus the taxes and everything. Oh, the taxes were in this, so I don't have to take it back off. Ooh, nice. Budget looks better. It's $1,592, and then the typical mortgage, which is $1,953. To remind you guys again, the water bill is next month, so we don't have it in this budget. So all in all, our grand total profit, this is net, $2,730, which means that even if we did have to pay the water bill, once again, technically it's a monthly fee, would have been about $1,000. So we still would have total net $1,730.
And I swear to God, because we literally were ecstatic because we finally saw that in December, everything went to shit.
Yes.
I swear to God, if I lose my $2,700 profit in Metra this time, I am going to lose it.
Yeah, I'll be a little pissed.
This is literally, we achieved it, we plummeted, and now we've achieved it again.
So then on top of that, we spent 15 grand.
Yeah.
So technically, Metra's budget is not positive 2,730.
Keep in mind as well, we're still. We because that money, that $15,000, we were either going to spend it on debts on the company or we were going to do it into an investment. Obviously, you guys know what happened. We spent it on the investment, so we're still back rolling the debts as well.
Yeah. So all in all, because we had to pay for the filing fees for the DMV, and we had to pay for
certified mail receipt,
as well as the cashier's check. All in all, technically, and this is what I file on taxes, is that Metra was a grand total of negative $12,320, baby.
Stop borrowing money from us.
That's how you keep from paying taxes.
God, the company is like a blood-sucking gold digger. It promises me returns,
That's
but
right.
I swear I'm always putting money in.
So, all in all, really well. Honestly, I mean, once again, we did technically make a 2,000 plus or whatever, some odd change profit. I mean, there's probably, like I said, maybe an extra $40 in there for the taxes, and give or take. I don't quite remember exactly. But generally speaking, it's 2,000 something dollars. Now, we are almost fully occupied with the mobile home park. Now, if this
124 and 122,
yeah,
they've been very hard sells.
Yeah.
And 124 I put very cheap because we don't necessarily care about that one. 122 I put very high because we don't necessarily want to sell it. But if somebody's willing to accept my high price, why not?
So basically, we're not really expecting to get any more money out of the mobile home park. We're not going to squeeze it for any more dollars. It could, definitely could.
After the eviction of 108 happens, if that happens within the following like month of April and whatnot, it all gets finalized and done, and we can get a tenant in there quick enough. Oh yeah, there'll be a lot better squeeze on that.
Not to mention too, since we have already gotten work done at 108 and we have physically seen the contractor's work and we can vouch that it is significantly at least more competent than the previous contractor, there's a high probability that what we're going to do, because 124 has already been set up, we may go ahead and take some of this profit money, for example, as well as we have some other personal profit still left over. Plus now we have an additional 500 or so coming in monthly. We're going to take a lot of that money, most likely, no guarantee until next month when we tell you, in case, more crap pops up. But basically, the likelihood...
It's not allowed to pop. We already did the surprise bonsai attack.
Yeah, sure. That's what we thought last time. December, then January was like, it just ruined us. But anyways, long story short, likelihood is we're probably going to take a lot of this profit and go ahead and pay that same contractor to go ahead and start working on 124, so we can start turning that back into an investment. And then if 124 plus whatever happens with 108, if all that gets resolved and then everybody else stays the same, we don't have any issues with any of the other tenants, then we'll probably just put the rest of the money into 122 just to get it producing. Once it's capped out and we have nothing else to really do except for just general maintenance on the park, because we are going to clean it up obviously like we've been doing, it's pretty much just either potentially pay our debts back or keep buying more assets.
Yeah, if they're so, like we said, we told you guys the last video, we're going into acquisitions. We're tired of trying to make things work that aren't working. We started switching over to acquisitions, and if we find, again, we're not just going to go and just dump money, because again, the current real estate market is FUBAR.
Disgusting.
It's built. It's going to be a very big bubble coming soon. We're pretty confident on it. We've been predicting it for a while, and it's going to keep imploding for a while. That's the thing that people don't understand. When people say a bubble's coming, it gets better and bigger and more expensive and more crazy deals and sales. Someone gets left holding the bag.
We did also technically have another deal that happened this month, but we backed out of it because of potential fraud. And there was a lot of drama on that one. So that was before this. Kind of happened around the same time, actually, but it was technically before this mobile home. We were looking to get into an owner finance deal for a particular house down in Anderson. And we were like, you know what? This isn't worth our money or time. Let's just back out and go somewhere else.
There was a lot of things to be said on that. The wholesaler wasn't doing what they were supposed to. The tenant was potentially putting themselves in the worst position possible.
Attorney potentially.
The attorney supposedly
fraud. It was a bad one. So we said, nah, let's just.
We tried to help. The person.
We actually tried to fix the whole situation, but nobody wanted our assistance.
Nobody
wanted to work with us. And
so we're like, okay,
you guys wasted my time on fire, and there was. So once again, there's that whole upstate thing that we talk about. So once again, for those who are not in South Carolina,
upstate Korea.
Yeah. So this is basically for like the upper third, give or take, upper half of South Carolina is considered generally upstate. And there was some drama where a bunch of investors and whatnot were slinging mud at each other. Oh yeah, it was crazy over this one particular house. Anyhow, long story short, that didn't pan out. But those are the kind of deals that we're looking for, and we probably are going to find some more of those, because that would have been a really cheap entry price. And
that's the thing. You never know what you can find. Obviously, we got very fortunate this month. Who knows? As we continue to churn and burn, even if we're paying our debts down, every debt we pay down, that's more money we bring in monthly, and then we continue scaling it from there, and so on and so forth. So, yeah. Outside of that, I think that's everything.
Nope. Sorry for the incredibly long video. It was just an incredibly busy month. We had a lot of stuff happen, so we wanted to make sure we got it all on video for you guys, so you knew how dramatically life can change in the course of just 1 month, because we had like 4 months of just downhill, especially the last 2. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole shebang. I mean, anything else you want to mention?
No, that's pretty much it. Just remember, Patrick Starr, CEO, President, Chairman, Secretary, Board of Directors, shareholders. We are not.
We got this video here. And there is his humble abode.
That's where he lives, boys. The man, the legend who saved Metra. Just remember this. You guys remember how we talked about that 40% shares we still had available? Yeah, Patrick earned it.
Patrick,
yeah, we're just giving those 40. We're giving the rest of the
he'll be the majority shareholder.
Let him have the voting power, because That man was a prophet, literally and metaphorically.
But yeah, so long story short, I mean, we had a really great month this month. We're looking forward to next month. We're going to keep riding the momentum and kind of see where we land and see if we can get some more acquisitions and continue making profit for the first time in 2 months.
I that's all I want. After this video post, I just want to sit there and see another month of profit.
Yep.
I'm not asking, it doesn't have to be the 2000, just another month of Metra profit, and I'll finally be a lot happier.
That's right.
So, perfect. I think that's enough.
Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks.
Peace.
Bye.